It's Tuesday morning in Sydney, peak hour on the Eastern Distributor. You're wedged between a tradies ute and a Tesla. The radio warns another rate rise is coming. Your mortgage is already swallowing 40 cents of every dollar you earn. And somewhere north of the harbour, in one of those quiet, leafy streets lined with Federation homes, someone just crossed the invisible line into Australia's top 1%. Not with a tech exit, not with a mining windfall, just by hitting numbers that feel almost ordinary. $375,000 a year. Before tax, that's it. Individual income. You probably pictured private jets and super yachts. Most people do. But the real threshold to Australia's elite isn't the fantasy everyone whispers about. It's lower, sharper. And the gap it creates between you and them has never felt wider. Because in this country, money stopped being about how much money you earn years ago. It became about what you own. And that shift changed everything. Most Australians still measure success by the payslip, the promotion, the side hustle that finally pays off. We grew up believing hard work and a fair go would get us there. FIFO runs in the Pilbara, late nights in a Melbourne law firm, building a business from a garage in Brisbane. That was the script. But the numbers tell a different story now. To sit in the top 10%, you need roughly 130,000. Top 5, around 180. Top 1, 375. Sounds steep, until you realise the median full-time wage hovers just over 90,000. You know people clearing that? Maybe you're close on overtime, yet crossing into that final 1% doesn't feel like a ladder you climb. It feels like a wall you hit, because income is only half the map. The real border is drawn in bricks and mortar. Walk through any capital city suburb on a Saturday morning, and you'll see it. Young couples at open inspections, clutching coffee like a lifeline, pretending not to flinch at the price guide. Further out, in the mortgage belt, families stare at their latest rates letter and wonder how the numbers keep moving against them. Meanwhile, in those same leafy streets, older homeowners quietly watch their property values climb another 10%, while they sip flat whites at the local cafe. No new job required, just time, and the postcode they bought into 20 years ago. This is the hidden system no one names out loud. Australia built its version of the good life on the promise that anyone could own a home, work hard, and watch it grow. Negative gearing, capital gains discounts, decades of planning laws that made land scarce and prices sacred. The banks loved it. The politicians loved it. The boomers who got in early loved it most of all. Property didn't just become an asset, it became the asset. More than 60% of household wealth now sits in real estate. For the top 1%, that number is even higher. Multiple properties, investment portfolios riding the same wave, super balances that look like small businesses. Income funds the lifestyle, sure, but the real wealth compounds while they sleep. And the rest of us? We chase the same dream with twice the debt and half the runway. That's what makes the psychology so brutal. You feel the comparison everywhere. Instagram stories of mates in Noosa for the long weekend, LinkedIn posts about that new kitchen renovation. The quiet dread when your uni friends from 15 years ago casually mentioned their investment unit in inner West Melbourne. It's not jealousy exactly. It's the slow realization that the game changed mid-match, and nobody sent the memo. Your identity was supposed to be tied to effort, to grit, to the Australian story that a hard-working tradie or professional could still build something lasting. But now status is measured in equity, not earnings. And the people who crossed the line first aren't necessarily working harder, they're positioned differently. That's where the real tension lives. Imagine Tuesday for someone who actually made it. They wake up in a home they own outright, or with payments that barely register. No rent anxiety, no Centrelink nightmares haunting their parents' generation. Breakfast is calm, kids are already at the private school down the road. They head to the office, or log in from the home study overlooking the bay. Their job pays well, often very well. But the real engine is the portfolio. A couple of investment properties ticking over, shares that have ridden the post-pandemic boom. Super that's been maxed for years. They're not flashing it. That's not the Australian way at the top. No Lambos in the driveway, just a sensible SUV and a holiday house on the Central Coast. But the freedom is invisible and absolute. They can absorb a rate rise. They can walk away from a toxic job. Their kids will never know the stress of HECS debt and first home buyer schemes that keep moving the goalposts. The gap isn't just financial, it's psychological. For everyone still grinding below the line, ambition starts to twist. You work harder, not because you love it, but because standing still feels like falling behind. Burnout becomes background noise. Side hustles multiply. Relationships strain under the weight of, we just need one more year. And quietly, the quiet desperation sets in. Not failure, not laziness. Just the slow realization that the system you were sold no longer exists in the same form. This is where Australia's famous fair go starts to fracture. We still tell ourselves we're classless. Mateship over money. But the data paints a colder picture. The top 20% now hold the majority of private wealth. The bottom half own almost nothing by comparison. And the engine driving it isn't some villainous conspiracy. It's the very thing we were encouraged to chase, bricks and mortar. The people who got in early didn't break the rules. They played the only game in town. The rest of us arrived late to a table already set. And that's the part that lands heaviest. Because deep down, every Australian under 45 feels the same quiet ache. The sense that the dream our parents lived, that steady climb from rental to owner to comfortable retirement, has quietly closed the door behind them. Not with malice, just with time, policy, and a property market that rewards those who already had skin in the game. You see it in the cafe queues, the tradies who built the city but can't afford to live near it, the professionals who earn six figures and still feel broke because the house price doubled while they saved, the young families pretending everything's fine while the equity gap widens every quarter. It's not about hating the people who made it, it's about understanding why the distance suddenly feels unbridgeable. The top 1% aren't villains in this story. They're the proof the system works exactly as designed. For them, the rest of us are left measuring our lives against a benchmark that moves faster than our wages ever could. The next time you drive past one of those renovated Queenslanders with the for lease sign out front, or scroll past another mate's European holiday while you're staring at your latest rates notice, you'll feel the shift. Not resentment, recognition. This is modern Australia, not the one we were promised, the one we actually built. And maybe that's the clearest view yet. Not of who has the money, but of what the money really represents now. A quiet, immovable line drawn in concrete and title deeds. Most Australians feel this tension, even if they never say it out loud. Once you notice the gap between what you earn and what you own, you start seeing the invisible architecture everywhere. And maybe, just maybe, that awareness is the first step toward navigating a game whose rules were rewritten while we were all still playing by the old ones.